So, as you guys can see by the title, I do need to talk to you all about something specifically with this channel, of course. And, I just think it's important to have these types of discussions about, our future. And I need you guys to also go down into the comment section in order for us to interact about this because it's very serious. So, I just want you guys to go down in the comments and discuss with me what just happened this past week in the NFL. I mean, what the hell? That was a crazy week 10, and I'm ready to come here and talk about it with you guys. So let's get into it, and welcome back to the First and Gold podcast. So I'm your host, Sam Gold, of course, as you know, and we got another great slate of games to discuss and go over. And yeah, we're going to keep on going with our normal format that we had last week. I think it worked. We had a lot of fun doing it. So we're going to start with a new segment. Once again, it's going to be the 2-minute drill. As you know, Al will be our guy with the timer behind the camera, so I actually don't go over this time. Basically, if you weren't here last week, the 2-minute drill, I'm going to get through every game that I don't want to go fully in depth about, but I still want to say one or two things about them each. All in the span of 2 minutes before we get to our main games. So ready? Here we go. Let's start now with Giants-Panthers, the Germany game. The Panthers come out and win 2 games in a row. What is this, 3 years ago? I don't know. But props to the Panthers. It feels like Bryce Young is actually smiling and happy again. And, the Giants, although it sucks to be 2-8 with a guy you paid $40 million a year as your quarterback, at least you're hurdling towards the number 1 pick. So that's something positive to come out of that. All right, Bills-Colts. Not much to say. I kind of want to save the talking about the Bills for next week. As you know, I'm a Chiefs fan, and that's going to be a huge matchup between us two. So, they got their win. Good for them. They move on to, 8-2. And, yeah, we'll discuss more about them later. The Colts are on the verge of me not talking about them for the rest of the year because they suck. Vikings-Jags, a game that I said it was going to be really, really random and weird, and it was nothing short of that. Sam Darnold, another bad turnover game, 3 interceptions. But look, props to the Vikings. They still came out in an away game, threw 3 interceptions from Sam Darnold, and still won. It was ugly, but good for you Vikings fans. Falcons-Saints, another big upset, 20-17. The Saints get their first win with Darren Rizzini. I think I said that right. It was just your classic interim head coach win. And the Falcons, we're going to talk about the Falcons a little more the rest of the season. This one really makes me feel they could definitely be a first-round exit if they're willing to give up these games to these inferior opponents. So we got to keep an eye out on them. Titans-Chargers, who cares? That's the real who cares game of the week. I have nothing to say about it. Congrats to the Chargers. Jets-Cardinals, not talking about the Jets anymore, but props to the Cardinals. They are one of the weirdest teams that I can't pinpoint at all. When Kyler Murray's great, the offense is awesome to watch. He was 22 of 24. And as a Marvin Harrison Jr. owner in fantasy, I absolutely don't understand when I should start them anymore. They're really inconsistent, but they've been on a good hot streak, so props to them. And then finally, Cowboys-Eagles. We could safely put the Cowboys season to rest as the Eagles keep proving me wrong and are on a win streak and look a lot better than I thought. And that was the 2-minute drill. Thank you for listening. All right, so I think I hit it on the nose. Look, if your team was caught in the 2-minute drill, don't worry. We got plenty more weeks to talk about it. We got our prediction episode coming out in a couple days after this releases as well. So don't worry. You're gonna hear a lot about your teams. But we do have some more important, closer games to get to. I wrote down 6 here today to talk about. And I know what you guys are thinking. You just said close games. You want to talk about close games. Yeah, I'm sorry, but my number 6 is actually going to be Pats-Bears. And it was 19-3. The Patriots won it. And look, the only reason I strictly want to talk about this game is because let's just have a conversation about the Bears. Obviously, they started out the season 4-2 before suffering that horrific, heartbreaking loss against the Commanders on the Hail Mary. And now they're staring down the barrel. They have a losing record at 4-5. And yeah, they're staring down the barrel of just another miserable season, not only for themselves as fans, but Caleb just looks miserable out there. The players don't look like they're even having it anymore. The offensive line doesn't want to block for them anymore. Receivers are frustrated. The coach is on the hot seat. And, just one flip of the switch on that Hail Mary can change everything on the season. So most people would say. But I think this was coming for the Bears for a long time. Because if you look at the teams that they beat, yes, you're not a bad team if you beat bad teams. And props to the Bears for taking advantage of some of those games where they played against worse defenses, and it looked like Caleb was really getting it going. But at the end of the day, there were so many red flags in the first 6-7 weeks of the year for the Bears that I am not surprised a game like this happened. I actually picked the Patriots to win it in my upset alert predictions. So, 19-3 is not exactly what I was expecting. But when you have so many holes on your team, such as lack of chemistry, the play calling is not up to par, especially with all those weapons that you have. And then the obvious issue, your offensive line. I mean, look, the defense still held the Patriots to 19 points, but there's a certain point where every drive ends with Caleb rather getting sacked or just having to throw it away. And sometimes it is Caleb's fault. He takes way too long to get the ball out. That's another issue that Caleb has had so far in his rookie year. But at some point, the defense is just not going to want to play for them anymore. And that's kind of been the mantra of the Bears defense for almost my entire lifetime. It's just been them carrying the team on their back. And right now, it's no different with a guy who you thought was going to maybe take you to the playoffs. And the season's not over yet, but I just felt like there was these glaring issues for the Bears that are now coming to fruition. And it just looks like everybody on that team, the vibes are so bad. You saw Caleb trying to get up from that sack, and he just looked miserable. He put his arms up. His body language was different. It feels like he's losing his confidence. And just everybody's got to be patient. But at the same time, you can't ignore these issues. So they got to have discussions about who's calling the plays. I know the trade deadline already happened, so I don't know what they're going to do about their offensive line. But it's just a tough watch to see a team that has gone through a lot of ups and downs this year. And all you can do as a Bears fan is just hope that somehow the offensive line gets better and Caleb gains a little more confidence and starts to look back on track through the second half of the season. That's all I can say. So, yeah, that's really what I wanted to get into with the Pats-Bears game. Props to the Pats once again for getting another nice win. And they have 3 on the year. So, look, they already have their quarterback, so you're not looking to get that first overall pick. Maybe you get a Travis Hunter in the draft. That'd be nice. All right. Number 5, I put down is Bucks 49ers. The 49ers just escape in Tampa 23-20. And, I don't have it ahead of some of these other games just because I don't know why. I mean, I just don't feel like it was that crazy it was a boring but close game that had a interesting ending, not only because of that play that Baker Mayfield made, by the way, which is one of the craziest plays I've seen in a long time, where he's just literally holding off Nick Bosa's arm as he's running to the right and converts a 4th down pass to Rachaad White. I feel so bad for Baker Mayfield. He deserves at least an MVP vote from somebody. I know they're 4-5. I know their playoff chances are looking bleaker and bleaker every single week, but this guy is giving it his all. I know he's been throwing some interceptions lately. In this game, he actually had no turnovers, which is good, but man, like there's just a point where there's nothing you could do if you're Baker Mayfield, because like how do you make that play and then walk out a loser for what is it, the 3rd week in a row? I don't know. I feel bad for Bucs fans. And this is what I want to talk about on the flip side with the 49ers as well, because they do deserve their credit. And I'm not saying the Bucs, didn't deserve to lose or whatever, but I just feel bad for them. But yeah, the 49ers, this is going to be a running theme with a couple teams I'm going to talk about. And I kind of mentioned this with some teams throughout the season so far. But look, it's week 10. We're trying to fiddle out who we truly think are going to be the contenders come playoff time. And I always said, if the 49ers are healthy enough, they're still always going to be in the mix. And a lot of big parts of what makes teams championship caliber is not their ability to blow out these teams, but the ability to win close games where they don't necessarily play better than their opponent for most of that game. And, it's kind of funny me saying that because I'm a Chiefs fan, and that's kind of been our mantra the entire season. That is the makeup of a championship team. And the 49ers, with McCaffrey coming back, even though he did okay, he did fine. He didn't do amazing, but Brock Purdy, if he can limit his turnovers, he also had 0 turnovers in this game. He had a beautiful touchdown pass to George Kittle. And if they can just eke out some of these close games against good opponents where they don't necessarily play that well, but they take advantage of moments where they need to make a big play and finally win it. Jake Moody redeemed himself with that game-winning kick after a rough day. And then, after the Bucs scored, you could have looked at it like, damn, like the Bucs just have all the momentum right now. It feels like Baker Mayfield's lighting it up, and we're just going to end up dropping another one. But no, they took advantage of however much time, I think it was less than a minute left, to go down there and kick a field goal, trust their guy who's had a rough day, and make it work. And Brock Purdy made enough plays in the times that matter, even if it's not these extremely flashy plays. I mean, it looks very reminiscent of the Chiefs of the last 2 years. And the 49ers just proved, as a healthy team, they could still come out and win these tough, close games. So that's a good sign for the 49ers that you didn't even play your best football and you still beat the Bucs in Tampa, which is a tough game. I mean, they took the Chiefs to overtime in Arrowhead last week. So props to the 49ers. Once again, I just feel bad for the Bucs, but it's kind of how their season has went. All right, number 4 is Bengals-Ravens. Now, this is the Thursday night game. It feels like ages ago when these two teams just played against each other, but we got to talk about it just because the game was so wild. 35-34, the Ravens eke out another victory. This was at home, and yeah, I feel like a broken clock just saying the same thing about these two defenses, which makes for a great game when they play each other. If you're a fan of offenses, you're wishing these teams played each other way more than twice a year, because it was a lot of fun to watch on a lot of these parts. But once again, it's like, first of all, the Bengals are even struggling to try to make a playoff spot. And then second of all, if you're the Ravens, I said this a couple weeks ago, like, great. Lamar's playing awesome. Your offense is on fire. But all these years, you had so many issues with Lamar not playing up to par in the playoffs when it mattered most. And you kind of had to just rely on your defense to keep you in the games. What if that happens again? And now your defense actually sucks? So, yeah, you can have all the fun you want. You can win these close games. You can put up all these points. But at the end of the day, I just feel like there's something shaky there with the Ravens, and it's an issue. No matter how much, Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson are playing up to MVP status, which they both can deserve at this point. I don't know. It was a huge win for the Ravens, a huge loss for the Bengals. Not because I thought the Bengals were going to win this game, but the fact that they were up 21-7. And you just kind of knew with that way their defense has played all season, there's no way they're going to keep this up against Lamar Jackson. And just watching it unfold throughout that third and fourth quarter, like, what else are you supposed to do at this point? Seriously, what else are you supposed to do if you're a Bengals fan sitting down and Joe Burrow is possibly putting up his best season of his career? He had fucking 5 touchdowns in this game. Jamar Chase had 255 yards. He had 55 fantasy points. That's insane. And you honestly were this close to beating the Ravens twice. Joe Burrow's putting out his all. I mean, him and Baker Mayfield, it's like the same thing. And your defense and these other facets of the team, the coaching, the offensive line, they're just not playing up to championship caliber. And you're sitting here at 4-6, needing wins against teams like the Titans and the Cowboys and the Steelers twice. They still got to play Steelers twice. And these all feel like winnable games in a normal Joe Burrow Bengals season. But if you're up 21-7 in Baltimore and you have all that momentum on your side and then you still end up blowing it, it's just a tough look. And I don't know where to go from here with the Bengals. It's just a disaster of a season, honestly. And I feel bad. And I know I shouldn't because I'm a Chiefs fan, but my dad's a Bengals fan. So it's frustrating just to watch a team with this much potential and week after week not only lose these games, but lose these close games where they definitely had a chance through most of it. So just another tough watch. Speaking of Bengals and Texans fans, you can kind of rejoice here as well. Or Bucs fans. I think this is more similar to the Bucs game, actually. This is Texans-Lions. Just happened last night, Sunday Night Football. The Lions win it 26-23 on a game-winning field goal by Jake Bates, the former XFL player. So good for him. But another story, I can't believe this is even the stat line. Jared Goff won a football game on Sunday Night Football in Houston with 5 interceptions. Yeah, I said that correctly. That is a sign that the Lions are legit and they are the Super Bowl contender to beat in the NFC right now. Bar none. I already thought that going into this game. But in what other universe are the Lions winning this game when their quarterback has 3 interceptions even? 5 interceptions? They're going to beat the Texans? I feel like we're living in a completely warped reality, and I don't want to jinx anything, but the Lions, like, this is extremely scary coming from a Chiefs fan as well. Like, they're playing similar games to they played a similar game to how the Chiefs have been the entire season, and they just ended up keeping themselves in the game enough times, and it's just these little drives where it feels like it's not a big deal if, occasionally the Texans stall out. But eventually, the team is good enough where they're going to do what they need to do. They have enough chemistry. They know the exact plays that at least work in these crunch time situations. And if their defense just pulls it together like they did, I mean, the Lions can pull out that win? Are you kidding me? So that is extremely scary, not only as a Chiefs fan who might meet up with them in the Super Bowl, but any other team in the NFL. Like, the Texans had that one in the bag. 23-7 they were up. And look, CJ Stroud was gaining that confidence in the first half with that touchdown pass at the end of the second quarter, and he was smiling a lot, and it felt like they just let loose for the first time in a few weeks offensively, even without Nico Collins being active for this game. And there's just these moments where the Lions kind of put you in a hole. Like, Joe Mixon was averaging 1.8 yards a carry against the Lions. How is anybody supposed to do anything against this team after Jared Goff throws 5 interceptions and they still win? So scary, scary, scary looking at the Lions moving forward. The Texans, just a devastating loss. Like, you guys, I don't even know what to chalk it up to. I really don't know what to chalk up your loss to, because I just feel like this was more about the Lions and their resilience and their ability to win a game like this in a completely different season than even last year. Like, it's just a whole new vibe for them. I don't even know what other word to say. It's just, there's some of these teams that are coming out of the woodworking now in week 10, and it's exciting to see. I feel like it's going to shape up for pretty good playoffs. Not to mention our next game that we're going to talk about, Steelers Commanders. Now, Steelers win 28-27 in Washington, and I know this is going to sound stupid and like, yeah, no shit, but isn't it nice when a game that's been hyped up for the entire week like actually pans out to be a great game and a really close game? I know it sounds stupid because, yeah, no shit, like, obviously it's great, but like, it's just nice to see. I feel like so many of these games of the week, have been hyped up the last couple seasons, and they always feel like they disappoint. Unless they're the Chiefs, because the Chiefs always play a close game. But we'll get to that in a second. So the Steelers-Commanders game was interesting for many, many reasons. Because there was some controversy at the end. There were some major highlights. I thought that George Pickens catch. I mean, talk about the 2024 season and their highlights. I think the number one thing we're going to talk about is the catches that were made this year so far. The fact that the George Pickens catch was like the 3rd best catch this season, maybe even 4th, just speaks volumes to how talented these guys are. And that was awesome to see. The fact that Mike Williams came in and scored his first touchdown in crunch time to take the lead in the 4th quarter from a Russell Wilson moonball. First of all, Russell Wilson is looking like 2015 Russell Wilson all of a sudden, because, yeah, that's what happens when you actually have a good defense to back you up, a good offensive line to back you up, a great coach, confidence again, like a time to heal up for the first few weeks behind Justin Fields. Like, he's finally looks like a normal quarterback again. And I don't necessarily like the Steelers or Russell Wilson that much either, but it is nice to see him bounce back. I can't lie. So the fact that their offense is not only playing up to par with their defense, even though they gave up 27 points this game, but still, their defense is still solid. Jeez, like, I don't even know what to say about, like, as a Chiefs fan, the last few years, the Steelers were never on my radar. I know they'll always end up with a winning record, but I think this is finally time to pull the plug on my doubt for the Steelers and admit that they're a real contender. The Steelers are a real contender in the NFL. And it took a lot for me to say, because I really have doubted them the last few years, because they just really haven't scared me that much. And if Russell Wilson genuinely continues to play like this under Mike Tomlin, and George Pickens is making these plays, Mike Williams comes in your first game and catches a touchdown, yeah, that's another team to really look out for. And I am so curious to see what these Steelers-Ravens games look like, because you go into Washington against a team that's absolutely rolling and play like that and close out the game like that, which, by the way, I cannot believe. I forget who it was on the Washington defense. I cannot believe they fell for that, the offsides call. Like, it's so... what other reason would the Steelers offense be running back onto the field for instead of punting? You know what they're going to do. I feel like I could go out there and just sit there. Are you kidding me? Anyways... you're lucky you got that Hail Mary, because you'd be looking at your 4th loss instead of your 3rd. So the Commanders, I still like how they played in a lot of parts. Not their defense as much, but just another great game to watch. I know there's some controversy with the Zach Ertz play on the Commanders' final drive. I don't know exactly where I stand on that. I think the fact that it was initially called short kind of screwed the Commanders because I could absolutely see a way that was a first down. It felt like the minute he turned around and reached the ball out was this moment where you could see that ball cross the line right before he was touched by the defender. It was really close, but if I had a gun to my head, I feel like I have 51% chance that was a first down, honestly. And if I were the ref, I probably would have called that a first. So that kind of sucks to see. But also at the same time, I don't feel bad because why is your defensive tackle jumping off sides when it's the most obvious thing ever that the Steelers are going to do that? So I don't know. There's a lot of reasons that you could say the Commanders lost or the Steelers won. But overall, what a game. I got to save the last few minutes for this game because, oh boy. Where do I start? I feel like I haven't been able to talk about a Chiefs game this crazy in a long time. I didn't get to talk about Chiefs Bucks because that was the Monday night game and we filmed this on Monday afternoons. So where do I start? Anybody that hates Chiefs fans and everything, you might want to cover your ears, but this is not going to sound great. So first of all, I'll fully admit the Chiefs were completely outplayed for the first 59 minutes and 55 seconds of that game. Absolutely. Our red zone offense was not efficient at all. It was terrible. Mahomes was missing guys in the end zone. Our defense kind of played a little. It definitely shaped up in the second half, other than the final drive. But Trent McDuffie gave up a touchdown. He had his worst day possibly of his career, and that feels like an issue against a guy like Bo Nix, who doesn't have a lot of weapons. Which, by the way, props to Bo Nix. Like, he's not turning the ball over, and I know I've been kind of hinting all around the season, like, the Broncos are underrated, and I like their defense, but I haven't really gotten in-depth about them. Facing them straight up, I understand it now. They are definitely a contender for a wild card, and I think they're moving in the right direction as a franchise, and I like Bo Nix. But, I'm kind of just stalling until we get to the block kick, because, look, there's nothing else I could say. It was the craziest thing I've seen this season. And there's been a lot of crazy shit. There's been, Isaiah Likely's toe being 1 inch out, the penalty on the Bengals, the missed call with the Falcons. Last week, the overtime game, it was insane. So there's been a lot this season, and we're somehow 9-0. And I'll be the first one to admit we are the worst 9-0 team since last year's Eagles. So actually, it wasn't that long. But, man, I mean, I wish I wasn't even thinking to film my reaction for that one because genuinely I was just like, damn, all right. Yeah, there's our first loss of the season. Like, there's nothing you can do. The Broncos have had our number the last couple of years, and we just put out our vanilla playbook, had terrible efficiency in the red zone, and we kind of just sleptwalked through this. It was a trap game. I felt like this could have been a trap game for sure, and it all came down to that final play. I can't. When I tell you, if you ever watch my Super Bowl reaction, you see the height I got when we won the Super Bowl? I think I even jumped through the ceiling on this play because I just wasn't expecting it at all. I don't know why I didn't even think it was a possibility. I was so done with the game. I knew it was going to be over. And then just that mixed with Kevin Harlan's call of the game and hearing the roar of the crowd, just, oh my gosh, it's such a stupid game. Like, it's just our first 1 o'clock game against the Broncos at home. And it was so low scoring. To have that ending? What happened? I don't know. I mean, props to Leo Chenal. Now, people, it's funny. I'm not going to get too far into this week because it's annoying to talk about a lot. But I will mention this. I've seen it on Twitter, and it's Twitter, so you got to take it lightly. But I thought it was funny. People are like, yeah, the Broncos offensive line just all immediately fell down at the same time. Isn't that a little suspicious? I feel like they're in on the script. And then someone just posted a reply like, here's every single kick attempt of this season with Alex Forsyth. I think that's his name. The left guard for the Broncos. And every single time he basically falls down and he's the worst field goal defender on the line ever. So it literally was the same thing that happened. It's been happening the entire game. And props to the Chiefs, man. I mean, Leo Chenal, I know a lot of non-Chiefs fans are familiar with him. Leo Chenal is one of the most underrated linebackers in the NFL, one of the most underrated players on the Chiefs. He is a freak of nature, and he made a phenomenal play. So, look, this has been the running theme of this episode, and I've talked about it a lot with the Chiefs this year. We already know that they're championship caliber. They're a dynasty. And the fact that you could play that bad and what you feel like is that classic midseason trap game with the Chiefs. All you needed was one play to eke it out, and that's exactly what we did. Again, now I'm a little bit afraid we're going to use up too much of our luck before the playoffs come. But man, what an amazing game. You guys can blame a illegal formation call in the second quarter. That's why you lost. But, at the end of the day, it's just people call it a lucky play. But, I mean, it was all skill. It would be luck if the Broncos guy just missed the field goal. But I think you gotta give your props to Leo Chenal. Don't disrespect the man. Seriously. So, yes, were we outplayed for basically the entire game? Of course. But look, sometimes all it comes down to is those games when your defense shuts you down in the second quarter and you just stay in it enough. So that's what happened. If everybody thinks we're using some voodoo magic, that's fine. I'll come show up in a fortune teller costume next episode and I'll embrace it. I don't care anymore. It's just fun to win like this. I know I'm never going to have this in 10 years from now. We're going to be like the Patriots and we're going to be depressed. So I'm just going to run with it. I love that everybody hates us. It feels nice to be the villain after growing up, especially in this area, New Jersey, when the Giants are winning Super Bowls and the Chiefs. Half my friends didn't even know who the Chiefs were. So, I just got to embrace it at this point. The ref costume, whatever you want. You guys can hate, but at the end of the day, we just capitalize on other people's mistakes, and that's why we're 9-0. So that was one of the craziest moments of the season. I'm excited to see what we do next week against the Bills. But there you go. That was our recap. I hope you guys enjoyed this format of another episode of First and Gold, the recaps. I don't know why I just named it like that, but there you go. Anyways, don't forget to comment down below, interact with us, like and subscribe, and then follow us at First and Gold on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. We'll see you next episode for the predictions for Week 11. Goodbye.